If we can move on to item 8, please, the Syrian refugee crisis, and I'll ask Rob Coggins to introduce his paper, please. Rob.
Thank you, Chair. So a report on the Syrian refugee crisis that we're all familiar with, and I've previously done a verbal update to members for Council. A couple of points I really wanted to pull out of the report, because it has provoked some discussion across social media, and I think it's an opportunity to try and put some of those points right, as well as emphasise some of the key points that have arisen as, through the course of events that we put this report together. The first thing to reaffirm is that this is a government priority, and local authorities across the UK have been asked to take part in this programme. So it is, in that sense, something that all authorities have been asked to consider, and certainly working with East Midlands councils and Derbyshire County Council, we've put a lot of effort into getting to a position where we can make an offer of support to government. The feedback from other areas where I've been researching the issue has been very positive. So I've been both to Coventry City Council, who've been involved with the programme, and also to Nottingham, where the Minister for Refugees came and gave a presentation along with other key individuals involved in the relocation programme in Nottinghamshire. And time and again, the response back from communities, from councils, has been one that's both very positive and rewarding for the people involved, and particularly obviously for the refugees arriving here. So, and I've been very specific in asking questions about difficulties that have arisen, and most of it relates to officers running around very hustled, trying to get things done in a short space of time. Actual negative points in terms of community integration, those haven't been raised at all. So, in that sense, it's been a very positive programme. Some other points to address relate to where the refugees are coming from, and Home Office are very clear that people are coming from refugee camps in Syria and the neighbouring countries. These aren't people that are coming from Calais or from other camps or other European countries. They're coming from Syria and the adjoining countries there. And extensive background checks take place, conducted by the Home Office, to ensure that the individuals and families that are coming to the UK are who they say they are and don't pose a risk to residents in the UK. The other key point to address is that the County Council is by far and away the lead agency in this exercise. The majority of services, like all the services that would be needed by people coming from Syria, would be provided by the County Council. We're very much at the end of this process in terms of helping to source accommodation that's available locally. So things like schools, GPs, dentists, they're all things that Health and the County Council commission, and we've been doing a lot of mapping work to ensure that resources are available and there are spaces within surgeries and GPs to ensure that people coming here can get the care and support they need. And the Home Office has published an extensive specification for areas to adhere to. It's very much a contract in terms of what is expected of communities and public sector organisations when welcoming refugees to the area. As I said earlier, East Midlands Council will increasingly have a coordinating role between Derbyshire, the other authorities in Derbyshire, in East Midlands, and government. So it's very much a higher level of support than perhaps authorities previously have had. As I've mentioned in the report, it's all been done in a bit of a rush after the government's announcement before Christmas. I promised to accommodate 1,000 people before Christmas, and talking to places like Coventry, that was quite difficult for them, but they did it, and they were happy, and now having a breather and thinking about getting involved in later phases. But certainly we'll need the support of the East Midlands councils to take this initiative forward. Quite a bit has been raised about how local people will be affected by the arrival of refugees. Certainly in terms of housing, taking 8 homes out of the total housing stock in the social housing sector of like 4,127 homes, on balance, seems quite a small proportion in my mind. And I'm sure many other members will agree that that is a small number of homes for a short period of time to be made available. Of course, we need to work with housing associations that have accommodation here, and we need to think carefully about where those homes will be sourced. And we work with the police, the partnership will work with the police to ensure that we're not placing people in areas where been convictions for hate crime, things like that. So quite some extensive work goes into choosing the right accommodation. Much has been said about benefits as well. In Syria there is no benefit system. So people coming here want to work. Syria is a country of entrepreneurs and people that want to get on and be employed. Principally to send money back to the family in Syria to try and make life better for those that remain. So in that sense, part of our work might be to help find employment. In terms of the lasting effect on the housing stock, the guidance to date from government indicates that support is provided for a period of 5 years through finance directly from government. And at that point, sufficient input should be given to families to learn English, to learn skills, and to develop an understanding of the UK and its culture, and be able to integrate and become economically active and become citizens that work and produce for the economy. So, in that sense, there'll be no ongoing programme of support after 5 years for families that will be paying taxes just like everybody else and contributing to the community. It struck me when I talked to colleagues in Coventry, the first 2 people that arrived from Syria were doctors, obviously working within the NHS. A similar example, a different profession, in Nottingham, there was a lad who was a professional footballer and got a trial at Notts County or Mansfield Town. They could have aimed a bit higher, but so we're talking about people with skills, with abilities that will have a contribution to the UK economy. The other thing to bear in mind is the cost of this, and some comparisons have been drawn with the reduction in services, for example, community transport. This is a programme funded entirely by government, and after the Prime Minister spoke in the Commons talking about the 20,000 refugees that have come to the UK, the government also talked about how this will be financed, and that's going from the overseas aid budget. So that's funding that was going to go out of the country to support initiatives across the world. That's being retained in the UK to support people here, and that's used to fund services provided by the Red Cross to provide here, and other agencies to provide support to families. So very much want to put that issue to rest. That this shouldn't cost the council any money, and it won't, in terms of other services, other public agencies, the funding the government provide will be covered. Will cover the costs of hospitals, GPs and dentists, that kind of thing. Turning to the recommendation, of course, what we've been asked to do is provide support on a temporary basis for 6 months in order to provide capacity within the County Council, the coordinating agency, to deliver and set up this programme. After that programme has started, the government will backfill funding through the programme that I've already covered. And so the recommendation before members is to note the report and to consider the request for £5,000 from the Homeless Prevention Grant, which is within the available budget. Happy to take any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Rose.
Well, Joe, I'm sure there will be some questions and a debate about this very serious subject. I hope we're not going to get emotional about it, as seems to have been the case, because those who look at Facebook will see that there's been some unfortunate comments, mostly inaccurate, about this situation, and Rob's report and explanation, I think, goes a long way to answering those questions. Unfortunately, there's nobody here. Jim is covering this event in the expectation that there was going to be some interest in the press. Now, the reason I think that Derbyshire Dales suddenly featured was the fact that we're the first authority to report this. So, congratulations to Rob for being so efficient that suddenly we're in the limelight on what seems to be a controversial subject but shouldn't be. Joe, I'm happy to move the recommendation, and I'm sure there will be questions, but in doing so, I'd just like to, I actually got an email for a change praising the council. I normally get lots and lots of emails that say totally opposite, and this is a constituent of Councillor Morley's who wants to thank the council for contributing to taking some Syrian refugees in. There are lots of locals in and around Ashbourne who do welcome this move, but of course many who don't. To me, as a local resident, it is a tremendous relief to know that we are doing a little at local government level to help the Syrian people. So that's from someone out there, a constituent. I'm happy to move the recommendation.
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Radcliffe. And Councillor Mike Radcliffe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, indeed, the recommendations have my wholehearted support, and I echo what Councillor Rose has been saying about the status of this authority when it comes to moral and ethical decisions and action over the homeless. And that's exactly, of course, what these people are. These are homeless people through no fault of their own are fleeing either war, pestilence or famine. And it's right and proper that we take a humanitarian stance towards them and do whatever we can to help these people. I note in the report that the differentiation has been noted between these refugees and asylum seekers. But of course, that is another category that requires some intervention. My questions, Rob, if I may, are first of all, I note that a number of towns will eventually be involved in this. It's something of would be something of a phased accommodation process, presumably. Can you give me any anticipation of when the detail on settlement into particular towns may be made known? Secondly, I know from your report too that resources can be stretched despite the government's funding here, and it strikes me that many communities have a wealth of voluntary support and contributions that they can make. Would you assume that that benevolence and those gestures will be taken account of? And perhaps a third point, town councils, of course, are often the closest to their communities rather than the upper echelons of local authority. Will they be linked into this?
Thank you, Chair. Well, it's. I think we're still probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 months away from actually finding appropriate accommodation. Still a lot of work to do in terms of securing the accommodation, but also the Home Office in terms of their front-end work in sifting the families that will be coming to this part of the UK. So we're still some way off, I think, in terms of that actually happening. But I think I'm more convinced than I was before that we will be involved in this programme. Yes, in terms of community sponsorship, we've received lots of inquiries, and the County Council set up a dedicated contact point for people wanting to express some form of support for the programme. The government, I think, have maybe been a bit overwhelmed by that because they've stuck to the let's just find some accommodation programme, really. There will be issues, I'm sure, that the community can assist with around things like, I think an example. So when people arrive here, they get a furnished house, that's all part of the programme, but there are some things that they're maybe not used to. So a TV licence, for example, they don't have TV licences in Syria, so we've got to find a way of trying to get that to work. Access to Arabic TV, these kind of things. So There will be need to support people with clothing, perhaps in the initial period, and potentially food. But again, the Red Cross service should very much on top of that. So certainly our experience from colleagues in Derby has been that's, the Red Cross is very good at this kind of thing. And maybe just going down the road and buying from their Red Cross charity shop is the best thing we can do, or making a donation of clothing through that service. So there will be, I'm sure, as this unfolds, more opportunity to do that. One of the big issues that we face is trying to help people learn English very quickly, and again, maybe if there are retired English teachers out there that are looking for something to do and want to set up some of the SOL courses, it could be an offer that would go down very well, because in some areas they've been restricted to academic years at colleges, and that doesn't always fit with people arriving into the UK. I think the other point to bear in mind is that when people arrive here, they don't want lots and lots and lots of support. They want to get on with their lives. They don't want people knocking on the door saying, "Are you okay?" As we would if we moved somewhere else. So there's a balance to be struck between providing kind support and not flooding people with offers that they struggle perhaps to understand, and also to take advantage of. So there might be issues around transport, for example, particularly getting to Derby or to other areas where there are services more established for those communities.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Burford, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to endorse what Councillor Rose and Councillor Raptis have said already, and warmly welcome this report, and I'd like to give my congratulations to Rob and his colleagues for producing it, and all the meetings that they've attended, and that emails and reports that they've studied over the last few months. I find it disappointing that 3 councils in Derbyshire are not supporting this initiative. Like many other members, I find some of the comments on Facebook and so on utterly repugnant from members of the public who, presumably through ignorance partly, but they may be motivated politically as well, of course. I was going to move the recommendation if nobody else did, but just before me, that is. But just before the recommendation, I see there's a sentence which presumably has a serious omission. It should be presumably Derbyshire Dales, as opposed to Derbyshire. Shire districts in Derbyshire, Shire districts, I think it says, as opposed to Derbyshire Dales. Shire districts such as Derbyshire, that's right. That is a misprint, presumably, is it?
Sorry, what paragraph?
Just before the recommendation on page 4. Yeah.
No, I was thinking of Lincolnshire, Nottinghamshire.
Well, Shire districts such as Derbyshire, it says. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So
right.
Counties that wouldn't
I see.
be part of a programme
Right.
of this nature,
Oh, right, I see.
they need to step up and
Right.
do more.
Now, can I also ask a question then about I know you say that we're not going to be looking at acquiring properties for a few months yet, but are you confident that there are 50 properties, or likely to be 50 properties available, either Dales Housing or other housing association properties, and without resorting to privately rented accommodation to fulfil this need?
Well, the 50 is about the whole of Derbyshire. Yeah, so it's less the 3 councils that have, at this stage, said they don't want to be involved. And the offer for Derbyshire Dales is 8. And we would work with the housing association partners to try and source those 8. We may yet use private rented accommodation, but it depends on location, quality and price.
Councillor Monks, please.
Mine isn't a question but a comment. In the autumn we had a lot of constituents getting in touch with us saying what were we going to do to help Syrian refugees. Rob has been before to explain what has been happening. I haven't read any of Facebook or any of these things. I just know from my situation as a councillor, people have expressed their willingness to help. People even saying that, they have them in their homes and this sort of thing. So, yes, I fully support your report, and I would think most of my constituents do too.
Councillor Flitter.
Well, thank you, Chair. Well, I'm not a fan of Facebook either, and I've not read anything on there, but what I have had is public reaction. And I've had to sit back this week and think, where the heck has public compassion gone? Because some of the comments have been really vile towards this issue, and it's really saddened me. I think we should be acting with compassion. One lady came to me and she said, well, okay, you're going to find so many houses. What about me? I've been on the waiting list 5 years, you know, and who's going to pay for all this? And lots of comments that really get worse as the night goes on. But I think this council is right to be compassionate and join this scheme, and I shall give it full support.
Thank you, Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, well, since Councillor Rose was kind enough to highlight my ward in Norbury, the villages in the south of the county do tend to have a bit of a reputation for wanting to be kept in aspic, particularly when it comes to planning. So I'm ever so pleased that it's been noted that when, forgive me mixing my metaphors, when the chips are down, that they're first to stand up to the plate. Working with the parish councils in Derbyshire, Norbury, Surrey, they've actually said we'll open our homes, we welcome our family in the village. So thanks for noting that, Chair.
Are there any other contributions? Councillor Ratcliffe, I beg your pardon.
It is a question. I fully support the report. I have to say I will have one comment from Councillor Pawley, because she would like to have been here. She is sad that we can't do more. So, you know, that's an aspect. But I actually, having gone to one of the evaluations that Rob was at, I think it's right that this is the right way that we're going. So although I tended to agree, once I've been to the evaluation of the day, that this would be what I would have thought based on what all the professionals were saying. And so I thought I'd just add that little bit, even though we all want to do more. One of the things that came to me was, and it's coming back to what we might have to do, but I wouldn't be right sitting here as an elected member not saying it. When questioning about the accommodation landlords, they quite clearly, the evaluation that came from the Borough Council and the professionals working was, it would not have worked within the private sector housing. So it's the social landlords that had helped the success of the project. I think that is right. That's not to say anything's wrong with social landlords, but you need to be able to give that type of support that you get from what is built up with the officers. So the point that Councillor Rose said about us welcoming housing associations within working partnership, I thought that one I would actually say that this is very, very important. There's just one aspect, Chair, which is just a little question, is that many years ago in housing, we needed to try and change culture without social engineering, and no way should councillors be allowed to nominate or suggest where people should go. And I understand that, but we do, as district councillors particularly, know our areas, and we want it to succeed. So we don't put somebody next to somebody who is in a crisis or a chaotic life that they are not managing to address. And I certainly have. I know my families in my areas where there are difficulties that need mediation. So based on what has been said on Facebook, etc., those things are really important. And then the other one is that they did say the most important thing next to having the ability to learn English was, wait for it, a post office or a bank. And that really, we need to address that. And I know that we're all trying to do that. But they need to have a bank account, otherwise they go a bit pear-shaped. Besides that we can go on about transport and health, etc. But it's such a great inspiration after these last years of the cuts that we've had, the different ways of working, that we can join together in order to play our small part in this rural district. I think it's really great.
Thank you very much. Rob, did you want to say anything? Or?
Yes, just your tiny question that you referred to. That's
4 minutes.
knowing members knowing their communities, isn't it? And I think certainly, I'm not sure that's been something that's been used elsewhere from the models that we've seen in Nottingham and Coventry, but I'd certainly take that back to the partnership group and talk about the involvement of members where we can.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please. Thank you very much.